A man pulled an alien girl out of a fire. The alien empire knelt before the man and his people. The trade station Hellier Prime was built to survive almost anything. It floated near a tired orange star, its wide rings shining with lights from 100 different species. Merchants, diplomats, workers, and travelers filled its corridors every day. The station was neutral ground, protected by old treaties and newer weapons. No one expected it to burn. The disaster began with a low vibration, so small that most people ignored it. Then came a sharp alarm tone, cutting through the noise of the market halls. Red warning lights flashed along the ceiling. In calm, artificial voices, the station announced a reactor containment failure in Habitat Ring 3. At first, people moved slowly. Alarms were common, but then the heat came. A wave of hot air rolled through the corridor, followed by thick black smoke. The floor trembled. Somewhere deep inside the station, something exploded. Flames burst out of a maintenance shaft, crawling across the walls like living things. Panic spread fast. Different species reacted in different ways. Some screamed. Some froze. Others ran as fast as their legs or tentacles or wheels could carry them. Emergency shutters slammed down, sealing off entire sections of the station. Fire suppression systems activated, but the heat was already too intense. Ring 3 was becoming an oven. Among the crowd was Ethan Cole, a human maintenance contractor. He was tall by human standards, average by galactic ones, wearing a plain gray work suit marked with the symbol of a private engineering company. He had been checking a faulty sensor when the alarm started. Ethan turned, squinting as smoke filled the hallway. His training told him to evacuate. His suit display showed rising temperatures and falling oxygen levels. This fire was not meant for civilians to face. He started moving with the others until he heard the sound. It was not loud. It was almost lost beneath the alarms and the roar of flames. A cry. Ethan stopped. He looked back toward a side corridor that most people were avoiding. The heat there was worse. The air shimmered. Even species known for their resilience stayed away, their instincts screaming danger. The cry came again. Someone was trapped. Security drones hovered nearby, scanning the area. One of them projected a warning in several languages. Area restricted. Evacuation only. Do not proceed. Ethan hesitated for only a second. He knew what the warning meant. Whoever was trapped was probably already dead. And even if they were alive, going in could mean his own death. Humans were not known for strong heat resistance. They were not warriors or nobles or powerful beings in the eyes of the galaxy. They were just humans, but the cry sounded young, frightened, in pain. Ethan cursed under his breath and turned toward the flames. People shouted at him as he passed. A four-armed traitor grabbed his sleeve, trying to pull him back. Ethan shook free and ran. The heat hit him like a wall. His suit alarm screamed as temperatures spiked. Smoke burned his lungs. His eyes watered, and every breath felt like swallowing fire. The corridor ahead was filled with broken panels and falling sparks. He could still hear the crying. Ethan dropped low, remembering old safety lessons from Earth. Smoke rose. Cleaner air stayed near the floor. He crawled forward, covering his mouth with his sleeve, forcing himself to move 1 meter at a time. The fire grew brighter. At the far end of the corridor, a section of the ceiling had collapsed. Flames poured down like rain. Beneath it, curled against the wall, was a small figure. She was not human. Her skin shimmered with soft blue patterns, now dulled by ash and soot. Thin, elegant limbs trembled as she tried to crawl away, but her strength was gone. Her clothing, clearly expensive, was torn and burning at the edges. Ethan realized dimly that she was important, but it did not matter. He reached her just as another beam fell from the ceiling. It crashed behind him, blocking the way back. The fire roared louder, as if angry at being challenged. "It's okay," Ethan said, though he doubted she understood his words. His voice came out rough and weak. "I've got you." She looked up at him, wide eyes glowing faintly through the smoke. Fear filled her expression, followed by confusion. Her species was taller than humans, stronger in most ways, but not here, not now. She tried to speak. No sound came out. Ethan shrugged out of his outer jacket and wrapped it around her, shielding her from the worst of the heat. The fabric began to burn almost immediately. Pain flared across his arms and back, sharp and intense. He screamed, but he did not stop. Lifting her was harder than he expected. She was light, but his muscles were shaking, his vision blurring. The heat pressed down on him from all sides. His suit display flickered, warning of system failure. Step by step, he turned back the way he came. The blocked corridor meant no easy exit. Flames crawled across the walls, cutting off familiar paths. Ethan's heart pounded as he searched for another way out. Then he saw it, a maintenance hatch, half hidden behind falling debris. It led to a service tunnel meant for drones and emergency repairs. It was narrow, dark, and unlit. It was their only chance. Ethan forced the hatch open and crawled inside, dragging the alien girl behind him. The metal walls burned his hands. Smoke filled the tunnel, but it was cooler than the corridor behind them. Just as he pulled them fully inside, the corridor collapsed. Fire rushed past the hatch opening, sealed away by emergency bulkheads. The tunnel shook violently. For a moment, Ethan thought the station itself might break apart. Then the shaking stopped. Silence followed, broken only by distant alarms and Ethan's ragged breathing. He lay there for a few seconds, staring at the metal floor. Every part of his body hurt. His arms were blistered. His lungs burned. His head felt light. The alien girl moved. She turned her head slowly, looking at him. Her glowing eyes focused, and something changed in her expression. Fear faded, replaced by disbelief. She reached out with a trembling hand and touched his burned sleeve. "You returned," she whispered in broken galactic common. Ethan managed a weak smile. "Yeah," he said. "Someone had to." Rescue teams found them minutes later. Fire suppression units breached the service tunnel, followed by medical drones and armed Imperial guards. The moment scanners read the alien girl's identity, everything changed. Voices shouted orders. Guards stiffened. Medics moved with sudden urgency. Ethan barely noticed. As they lifted the girl onto a floating stretcher, one of the guards stared at Ethan in shock. His armor bore the crest of the Aurelian Empire, the most powerful force in known space. "Do you know who that is?" the guard asked, his voice tight. Ethan shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "just someone who needed help." The guard looked at him as if he were seeing something impossible. "She is Princess Lyra, the guard said. "Daughter of the Supreme Regent." Ethan blinked once. "Oh," he said, that was all. As medics finally turned their attention to him, the station's emergency lights shifted from red to white. The worst of the fire was contained. The crisis was over. But something far bigger had just begun. Far away, deep within the heart of the Aurelian Empire, alarms of a very different kind were about to sound. And the galaxy was about to learn what humans did when someone cried for help, not the quiet of sleep, but the careful silence of a place where every sound was controlled. The air was clean and cool. A soft white light glowed above him, not bright enough to hurt his eyes. For a long moment he did not move. His body felt heavy, wrapped in warmth and dull pain. He slowly opened his eyes. He was lying on a medical platform, suspended slightly above the floor by a low-gravity field. Transparent panels surrounded him, filled with floating symbols and soft blue lights. Tubes and scanners hovered nearby, moving with gentle precision. This was not a human medical bay. Ethan tried to sit up. The platform reacted instantly, lowering its gravity and guiding him back down. A calm voice spoke in galactic common. "Please remain still. Your injuries are healing." Ethan let out a tired breath. "Figures," he muttered. Memory returned in pieces. The fire, the smoke. The alien girl. The heat that felt like it would tear his skin apart. He looked down at his arms. The burns were still there but covered with smooth, transparent medical gel. The pain was present but distant, as if wrapped in cotton. He turned his head and noticed he was not alone. Two figures stood beyond the transparent wall. One was a tall alien medic, its body covered in pale silver skin, eyes focused on a data display. The other wore dark armor trimmed with gold, the mark of imperial authority. An Aurelian guard. Ethan's stomach tightened. He had heard enough stories to know that imperial attention was rarely good news. The guard noticed his movement and stepped forward. With a gesture, the transparent wall faded, allowing sound to pass through. "You are awake," the guard said. His voice was deep and controlled, but there was something strange in his tone. Not anger, not threat, curiosity. "Yeah," Ethan said. "Seems that way." The guard studied him closely, eyes moving over the burns, the simple work suit, the human face. "You are fortunate," he said. "Few survive exposure to that level of heat." Ethan shrugged slightly, then winced. "Wouldn't recommend it." The medic finished a scan and stepped aside. "His recovery is progressing beyond expected parameters," the medic said. "Human biology is adaptable." The guard nodded once. "You will be observed." "That's comforting," Ethan replied dryly. The guard paused, then did something unexpected. He placed a hand over his chest and inclined his head slightly. "Aurelian protocol does not account for this situation," the guard said, "but I am instructed to ensure your safety." Ethan blinked. "My safety?" "Yes." Before Ethan could respond, the door at the far end of the chamber opened. Everyone turned. She entered quietly, escorted by two attendants and another guard. She walked slowly, still recovering, but her posture was straight. Her blue-patterned skin was clean now, her noble attire replaced with simple healing garments. Princess Lyra Valen. Ethan recognized her instantly. She stopped a few steps from his platform and looked at him. Her eyes were steady, focused, and filled with something he did not expect: respect. "You saved my life," she said. Her galactic common was clearer now, her voice calm but sincere. The chamber felt smaller, heavier, as if the words carried weight far beyond the room. Ethan shifted awkwardly. Anyone would have done the same. The guards behind her stiffened. One of them looked almost offended. Lyra did not look away from Ethan. "That is not true," she said. "Many were there. None entered the fire." Ethan had no good answer to that, so he stayed quiet. Lyra stepped closer. "You did not know who I was," she continued. "You did not ask for reward, you did not hesitate." Ethan met her gaze. "You were hurt," he said simply. "That was enough." For a moment the future ruler of the Aurelian Empire said nothing. Then she bowed. It was not deep, but it was unmistakable. The guards reacted instantly, shifting in alarm. One opened his mouth to speak, but Lyra raised a hand and he fell silent. "You owe me nothing," Ethan said quickly, embarrassed. "Really?" Lyra straightened. "That is not for you to decide." The words were not a threat. They were a statement of law. Elsewhere in the station, far above the medical wing, the Imperial Council was in chaos. Holographic figures filled the vast chamber: commanders, nobles, scholars, and advisors. Voices overlapped, emotions clashing against centuries of rigid order. "A life debt," one counselor snapped. "To a minor species contractor." "The law is clear," another replied. "A life freely saved creates obligation." "This is dangerous," said a third. "Humans are unpredictable. Granting them favor elevates them." "They are already elevated," a scholar interrupted. "Have you seen the data?" A massive display activated, showing images and records pulled from human history. Wars survived, plagues endured, environmental extremes, stories of civilians rushing toward danger instead of away from it. "They evolved on a death world," the scholar continued. "High gravity, unstable climate, constant internal conflict, and yet they persist." A general crossed his arms. "Persistence is not power." "No," the scholar agreed, "but behavior under stress is." Another image appeared, Ethan entering the fire, recorded by station sensors. Heat readings spiked into lethal ranges. His vitals faltered but did not fail. He should have died, the scholar said quietly, but he chose not to stop. Silence spread across the chamber. "This changes nothing," a hard-voiced noble said. "One human does not represent a species." The Supreme Regent's hologram flickered into clarity at the center of the room. His presence alone was enough to quiet the council. "One human," the Regent said slowly, "acted where an empire did not." No one argued with that. Back in the medical wing, Ethan was finally allowed to rest. Guards remained nearby, not restraining him but protecting him. That fact alone unsettled him more than chains would have. He stared at the ceiling, mind racing. He had done what felt right. That was all. Now entire governments were watching him because of it. The door opened again. This time Lyra entered alone. "May I speak with you?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Sure." She sat on a nearby seat, folding her hands carefully. "I have learned much about your species in the last few hours," she said. "None of it matches what we believed." Ethan gave a small smile. "We get that a lot." "You feel pain," Lyra said. "You fear death, and yet you move toward danger for those you do not know." "Doesn't everyone?" Ethan asked. Lyra shook her head. "No, my people value strength, efficiency, survival of the worthy. You value connection." She studied him closely. "Why?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because someday," he said, "that could be us in the fire. And we'd hope someone would come." Lyra was silent for a long time. "When the council finishes," she said finally, "they will ask what you want." Ethan frowned. "I don't want anything." Lyra tilted her head. "That answer will trouble them." Ethan chuckled weakly. "Good." She allowed herself a small smile. "You may not seek power," she said, "but power has noticed you." As she stood to leave, Ethan called out, "Hey," she turned. "Whatever happens," he said, "don't let them turn this into something ugly." Lyra's eyes softened. "I will try," she said, "but empires do not change easily." She paused at the doorway. "Still," she added, "they have never met humans before, not truly." After she left, Ethan lay back, staring at the light. Somewhere far beyond the station, messages were being sent. Fleets were watching. Analysts were calculating. All because one human had chosen to run into a fire. And the galaxy was beginning to understand that this choice was not an exception. It was human nature. Days passed in the medical wing of Hellier Prime. His burns faded from angry red to pale pink. His strength returned slowly, measured by careful steps and breathing exercises. Imperial doctors watched him with quiet fascination, recording every small improvement. Humans healed faster than expected. Outside his room, guards remained at all times. They never pointed weapons at him. They never spoke harshly. Still, their presence reminded Ethan that his life was no longer simple. He was no longer invisible. Across the station, rumors spread. Merchants whispered. Dock workers shared half-true stories. A human had saved an imperial princess. The empire owed him a life debt. What that meant, no one knew. Some believed the empire would reward humanity. Others believed the empire would erase the problem. Far away in the dark halls of the Imperial Council, patience was thinning. The council chamber was filled once again with holograms and raised voices. "This situation grows unstable," said General Korath, his armored form flickering slightly. "Other powers are watching." "If we show weakness, honor is not weakness," replied Scholar Tavel. "Breaking a life debt would damage our legitimacy." "A life debt to one human," Korath snapped, "not his entire species." "That distinction may not matter to humans," Tavel answered calmly. The Supreme Regent remained silent, listening. Another figure spoke, her voice sharp and cold. "There is a simpler solution." All eyes turned to Lady Vesh, a noble known for her ruthless logic. "The human is the problem," she said. "Remove him and the debt dissolves." Accidents occur every day on stations like Hellier Prime. A low murmur spread through the chamber. "Assassination," someone whispered. "Containment," Lady Vesh corrected. For the good of the Empire. The regent's eyes narrowed. You propose killing the one who saved my daughter. Lady Vesh did not flinch. I propose protecting the Empire from emotional decisions. Silence followed. The regent spoke at last. We will decide soon. Until then, the human remains under protection. Lady Vesh inclined her head, hiding her expression. But her decision was already made. The attack came quietly. Ethan was walking the recovery corridor, supported by a light gravity brace. A medic floated nearby, pretending not to watch him too closely. The station seemed calm. Too calm. A service drone hovered at the end of the hall, its lights flickering in an odd pattern. Ethan slowed. Something felt wrong. The drone's casing split open. A pulse of energy fired down the corridor. The medic shouted and shoved Ethan sideways. The blast scorched the wall where Ethan's head had been moments before. Alarms screamed to life. Emergency shields snapped into place. Imperial guards reacted instantly. Weapons activated. 2 guards moved to shield Ethan with their bodies. The drone exploded, tearing itself apart. Smoke filled the hall. Ethan lay on the floor, heart pounding, ears ringing. His brace sparked and shut down. Status, a guard barked. The human is alive, another replied. Minor injuries. Ethan stared at the ruined drone, shaking. That thing was maintenance class, he said. Someone modified it. The guards exchanged glances. This was not an accident. The response was immediate. Security sealed entire sections of the station. Imperial investigators swarmed through data logs. Someone had authorized the drone's access, someone high-ranking. Princess Lyra arrived minutes later, her calm expression barely hiding her anger. They tried to kill you, she said, her voice tight. Ethan sat on a bench, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Yeah, he said. Not exactly subtle. Lyra clenched her hands. This should not have happened. Ethan looked up at her. Is this what the Empire does when things get complicated? Her eyes met his. Sometimes, she admitted. That honesty surprised him. They're scared, Ethan said slowly. Not of me, of what this means. Lyra nodded. You force us to face our own contradictions. Ethan sighed. I never asked for that. No, she agreed. But history does not ask permission. The failed assassination did something the Empire did not expect. It reached humanity. Messages crossed interstellar space, bouncing through trade relays and deep space channels. A human civilian acting without orders had saved an alien princess. Now that civilian had been targeted. Earth listened. Human governments were cautious, but they were not slow. Diplomatic vessels adjusted course. Defense fleets that had never been announced quietly changed position. Satellites watched, not in anger, in readiness. For centuries, humanity had learned the same lesson again and again: hope for peace but prepare for betrayal. They did not threaten, they prepared. Imperial analysts noticed. Human ships began appearing near shared borders, not aggressive, just present, watching, protecting trade routes that had never needed protection before. They move like civilians, one analyst said. But they position like soldiers. They are both, another replied. Ethan was summoned to speak before the council. The chamber was vast, filled with towering holograms of beings far more powerful than him. He stood alone on a small platform, wearing a simple uniform. No weapons, no armor, just a human. Princess Lyra stood beside the regent, her presence steady. You have been targeted, the regent said. This act violates imperial law. Ethan nodded. Seems that way. Some believe this proves humanity is a destabilizing force, the regent continued. Ethan looked around the chamber. With respect, he said, I didn't destabilize anything. I just didn't let someone burn. Murmurs rippled through the council. You could have asked for protection, Lady Vesh said smoothly. Instead, you draw attention. Ethan met her gaze. I didn't ask for attention either, Lyra spoke. He asked for nothing. That is the problem. Ethan took a breath. If you're looking for demands, he said, I don't have any, but I do have a line. The council leaned in. "Don't hurt my people," Ethan said. "And don't make this worse by pretending it's about power. It's about trust." Silence followed, then something unexpected happened. Human signals lit up the chamber's displays. Not weapons, not threats, evacuation routes, medical ships, supply convoys rerouted away from Imperial space. Humanity was stepping back, but staying ready. "They are disengaging," a counselor whispered. "They are protecting their own," another corrected. The regent studied the displays for a long time. "They do not seek dominance," he said slowly. "They seek safety." Lyra turned to him. "That makes them dangerous only to those who threaten them." Lady Vesh said nothing. Later, Ethan sat alone in a quiet observation room staring out at the stars. His reflection looked small against the vastness of space. Lyra joined him. "You stood your ground," she said. "I didn't know what else to do," Ethan replied. "That is why it mattered." She paused. "The Empire must choose, honor or fear," Ethan exhaled. "I hope they choose right." Lyra looked at the distant lights of human ships, barely visible but undeniably present. "They are quiet," she said, "but they are not weak." Ethan smiled faintly. "We never were." Far away, decisions were being finalized, protocols rewritten, traditions questioned. The Empire was learning a difficult truth. When quiet people are pushed, they do not shout. They prepare. And soon, the galaxy would see what that meant. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Aurelian Empire had never been so full. Holographic banners floated in the air, displaying the symbols of hundreds of species. Representatives from across known space watched in silence. Some stood tall and proud, others shifted with unease. All of them understood that something historic was about to happen. At the center of the hall stood Ethan Cole. No armor, no weapons, no symbols of power, just a human in a simple uniform. Behind him, at a respectful distance, stood Princess Lyra Valen. Beside her was the Supreme Regent himself, ruler of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. His presence commanded absolute attention. The Regent stepped forward. "Today," he said, his voice carrying across the vast hall, "we address a matter that has tested our laws, our traditions, and our understanding of strength." The hall remained silent. "A life was saved," the Regent continued. "Not by command, not by reward, but by choice." His eyes moved to Ethan. "This human entered a fire that none of us would," the Regent said. "Not because he was ordered, not because he knew who he saved, but because someone cried for help." Whispers spread among the spectators. Ethan stood still, hands at his sides. He felt out of place, but he did not lower his head. The Regent raised one hand and the hall darkened. Images appeared in the air. Station footage of the fire, Ethan running forward while others fled, the rescue, the aftermath. "These recordings have been reviewed by our scholars, generals, and judges," the Regent said. "The conclusion is unanimous." The lights returned. "By our oldest law," the Regent declared, "a life freely saved creates a debt that cannot be denied." Lady Vesh stood among the nobles, her expression tight. She did not speak. "The attempt on this human's life," the Regent continued, "was an act of fear. It failed, and in failing it revealed a greater truth." He turned slowly, facing the gathered species. "Humanity does not seek conquest. They do not seek tribute. They do not demand kneeling." A pause. "They act." Ethan swallowed. Princess Lyra stepped forward. "When I was trapped in the fire," she said, her voice steady, "I believed I would die. My people are strong, powerful." Feared, she looked around the hall. "None of that mattered," she said. "Only one being moved toward me." She turned to Ethan. "He did not see a princess," she said. "He saw a life." The weight of her words settled heavily. Human observers watched from distant screens, ships, and embassies. Soldiers, civilians, leaders, none of them spoke. They waited. The Regent straightened. "Therefore," he said, "the Aurelian Empire will honor its debt." He stepped down from his platform. Gasps rippled through the hall. An emperor did not leave his throne. Slowly, deliberately, the Supreme Regent moved toward Ethan. Then, before the eyes of the galaxy, he knelt. not in defeat, in respect. The sound of his knee touching the floor echoed like thunder. Princess Lyra followed, kneeling beside him, then the Imperial Guards, then the nobles. One by one, the Aurelian Empire knelt before a single human. Ethan's breath caught. "Please," he said quietly, stepping forward, "you don't have to do this." The regent looked up at him. "Yes," he said, "we do." He rose and spoke clearly. "From this day forward, humanity is recognized as an equal power," the regent declared. "No human world shall be taken." Cheers broke out across the hall, some loud, some hesitant, some filled with awe. Ethan felt overwhelmed. "I didn't want an empire," he said. The regent smiled faintly. "You did not ask for one. That is why you deserve respect." Later, away from the crowds, Ethan stood at a viewing deck overlooking the stars. Human ships were visible now, no longer hiding their presence. Medical vessels, trade ships, defense fleets, calm, organized, disciplined, prepared. Lyra joined him. "You changed everything," she said. Ethan shook his head. "I didn't change anything, I just did what felt right." She studied him. "That is what makes humans unsettling." He laughed softly. "We hear that a lot." The regent approached quietly. "We would offer you a position," he said. "Advisor, envoy, you would have influence beyond imagination." Ethan looked at the stars, then at the distant blue dot that marked his home. "No," he said gently, "my place is with my people." The regent nodded. "As expected." Lyra hesitated. "Will you return?" Ethan smiled. "Humans always do." Ethan returned to Earth without ceremony. No parade, no crown, no title. Just a man walking off a ship, welcomed by relieved faces and quiet pride. The galaxy watched closely. Humanity did not boast. They did not threaten. They did not expand aggressively. They simply stood taller. Trade routes shifted. Treaties changed. Empires reconsidered old assumptions. And everywhere the same lesson spread. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest. They were not the most advanced. But when someone screamed in the dark, humans ran toward the fire. And that was enough to make empires kneel.